Very busy offseason for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not only because they're drafting first overall in the NFL draft, but also because they have to find a new offensive coordinator to replace Jeff Tedford. Now, a number of guys are rumored to be on their radar, and they've conducted some interviews, so I wanted to go ahead and look at some of them and offer my thoughts on where I think they would fit in. I'm going to start with Dirk Koetter, who I wrote about just yesterday. He was previously the Atlanta Falcons coordinator and also was the offensive coordinator for Jacksonville. He's a guy that's known for having a 4 vertical passing game, which allows him to stretch defenses both horizontally and vertically. It's also considered quarterback friendly in the sense that he has a number of different options to use against different types of coverages. I like him because he can adapt his system to fit virtually any type of personnel, whether it was Jacksonville, where they had a really strong ground game with Maurice Jones-Drew, or in Atlanta, where you had Matt Ryan and a number of talented receivers with Julio Jones, Harry Douglas, Roddy White, and Devin Hester, too. Another guy that's on the Bucs' radar, and for good reason, is Mark Trestman, former head coach of the Bears. Some people might wonder, is there bad blood between him and Lovie Smith, given that he was his replacement? But if you talk to both of them, you won't find any sign of that at all. And you talk to people around the league, this is a guy that is very well respected for his ability to work with quarterbacks. And you ask even Josh McCown, the Bucs' current quarterback, and he said he played his absolute best football under him. And you look at the numbers, and they don't lie. He threw 13 touchdown passes and just 1 interception under Trestman back when he was working with him in Chicago this past year. He completed nearly 67% of his passes, too, in relief of Jay Cutler. But the big thing with Trestman is that he's got experience with the same type of personnel that the Bucs currently have. Those 2 big receivers and also a very productive ground game. And that was a big thing for Lovie Smith. He said he really wants balance on offense. He wants to be able to run the ball effectively and also take shots down the field. Now, say the Bucs do draft a quarterback with that first overall spot. Doesn't mean he's going to play right away, which is really important that a guy like McCown is playing at a high level in the event that he does have to start the first few games. And then, of course, the new quarterback can be brought up slowly with a guy that can show him the way. Trestman could be the guy to get that job done. Now, another guy I've heard mentioned a lot has been Greg Roman, 49ers former offensive coordinator. I'm not as high on him as some other folks are, although you did see a lot of struggles this past year. I have to wonder whether it was personnel or whether it was sheer coaching, but the fact that you didn't see the tight ends stretch the field, Vernon Davis didn't have a good year, no Delaney Walker, so they struggled there. Offensive line struggled, the run game struggled, and overall they just had a big mess. But I think the biggest thing for me, though, and why I'm not a fan of Roman, is what they did in that game against the Rams. You were right there at the goal line, and you attempted a quarterback sneak versus not handing the ball off to Frank Gore. I'm not really sure why they weren't as committed to the run maybe as they should have been, especially with a guy like Gore. So that was really puzzling for me. And there are a few other guys that have been mentioned as well. You've got Marty Mornhinweg. He has that West Coast type system. He could be a guy that would allow for a smooth transition from what Tedford did. He also was a West Coast guy, getting a lot of that horizontal passing game involved. Also a guy like Rob Chudzinski, who was previously the offensive coordinator with the Panthers before he came to Cleveland and became their head coach. I think this would be a great spot for him, too. He was a guy I was always a fan of when he was a coordinator out in Carolina. So those are just some of the guys that are currently on the team's radar or have interviewed with the team. I also don't think you should rule out some of the guys in college. The name like Scott Frost has been thrown around a lot. He's currently the offensive coordinator at Oregon. A lot of folks have said, hey, if they draft Marcus Mariota, bring Scott Frost along. In a way, you're getting some of that Chip Kelly-style system. The Bucs tried to get Kelly a couple years ago, and that didn't work out, but you'd be bringing that system here. So a lot of things to consider, although I will say this. You saw what happened by going after a college coach this time around. Perhaps Tedford realized he was in over his head, and maybe, just maybe, Lovie Smith will want to play it a little bit safer this time by going with a guy who has proven play calling experience in the NFL. Stay tuned for all the latest on the Bucs offseason as well as other moves throughout the NFL. It'll all be posted on sportstalkflorida.com. With Sports Talk Florida, I'm Jenna Lane.